Okay, so for page 3, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need from your vocab sheet the word classify. It's right here, classify. So that's the first thing you're going to need. You're also going to need from this packet a few things. From this packet, you're going to need this top one, 3 major types of rocks. And then also this back sheet, is it a rock? So that's this guy and this guy. So get those. And then the last thing you're going to need is from this one, and it's the second one that says types of rocks. So get those 4 things. I know this is a long one, but tomorrow's is really short. Cut out and unpause when you're ready, and we're going to start with the vocab word. Okay, so we're going to start with the word classify. So we are going to do the definition first. So classify means to organize, objects or events into groups, not into, but into, based on common characteristics. So that's things they have in common. So in science for rocks, we classify rocks based on how they're formed. So we do that by classifying them as either igneous, made by fire or molten rock, sedimentary, formed from sediment, or metamorphic, changed by heat and pressure. So changing forms. So then you're going to list 3 other things that you can classify. So anything you can classify. You could classify the students in 6th grade based on their favorite subject. Or you could classify your types of candy based on what kind of candy they are. You're going to need the picture from right here that says geologists classify rocks. It has the word classify written right on there, and that's the picture you need. So that's what you're going to do for number 3. So I gave you some examples, but you want to list 3 other things that you can classify, and that's going to go all the way up here at the top. Make sure that you finish those other 2. And the next thing you're going to work on is this one. Okay? So you're going to need either a highlighter or something to underline with, the typical Miss Philpott ordeal. So 3 major types of rocks. Remember that. You hopefully will never forget how many types of rocks there are. We're going to talk about it so often. So we've got igneous rocks. They are when magma cools and crystallizes. Very simple. And then we've got sedimentary rocks. So sediment, rock fragments, mineral crystals, and remains that make them up, and metamorphic rocks. You're going to have to read most of these by yourself. Formed from igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, or other metamorphic rocks. And you're going to go over to here, and you're going to say, what are 3 types of rocks? Summarize each type. So summarize means tell me about them. So just one main key fact about each one. Igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. Now, if I just see those 3 words written here, you only completed half of this exercise. Okay? So you're not doing it right. When you glue this in, you're only going to be gluing in this, and this is going to fold over on top of it. So don't glue that in all the way. And this is the next thing we're going to use. Is it a rock version? Don't ask me why it's version 2. This is pretty simple. Is it a rock? What is a rock? How do you decide if something is a rock? Put an X next to things that you think are rocks. So I'm actually going to change it. I'm going to put a check next to things that are rocks because I think that that is more like true. So you're going to want to go back to page 1 and look at your definition of rock and maybe even read up about it on page 1. So we remember that a rock is naturally occurring. It's solid. And it's made of minerals or other things. So, like, we can think of, So first I would go through here and I would look, and I'd see that all of these are solid, so I can't eliminate it that way. And then I would remember that they're naturally occurring, not man-made. So which of these things are man-made? So is it cement man-made? Yep. So I can maybe even put an X over here. Not good. So I'm going to go through and all of the things that are man-made. Asphalt, road tar, nope, man-made. Glass, man-made. Technically. That one's debatable. A piece of a clay pot, man-made. Coral. Ooh, that's a tricky one. You might have to Google that. Concrete, man-made. Okay? And go on like that, and make sure you put a check next to all the ones that are rocks. I could say that either 8 or 9 of these are rocks. But the key part here is that you go down here. Explain your thinking. So you have to actually explain how you went through this process. What rule or reasoning did you use to decide if something was a rock? So to decide if something was a rock, I ... finish that sentence. So what did you do? And you're going to need to save this for later too. We're not going to glue that in yet. And we're going to work on that last paper. You're going to need a highlighter and a pen or pencil with this one, like normal. Okay, so this is types of rocks. Now this one we're going to have to glue in on the back, so make sure you don't cut off all that stuff at the top. You don't need to put your name. So types of rocks. So rocks, we just talked about this, are naturally occurring solid aggregates, that means combinations or mixtures, of one or more minerals that make up Earth's crust. Rocks are important because they can be used to make tools and help us study Earth's history. Humans rely on minerals and metals found in rocks, and we use rocks like coal for energy. There are 3 major types of rocks that are distinguished, that means we can tell them apart, by the way they form: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. And those are the 3 things we're going to read about next. So igneous rocks form when magma or lava cools and hardens. Pretty simple. Igneous rocks can look very different depending on how fast or slow the magma or lava cools. When magma cools slowly, it forms a coarse-grained, that means large-grained, rock with large crystals. When magma cools fast, it forms a fine or small-grained rock with small crystals. When magma cools very quickly, it forms shiny glass-like rock. Sometimes gas bubbles are trapped in the rock during the cooling process. This forms rocks with tiny holes. Pumice is an igneous rock that has many tiny air bubbles trapped in it. Okay. Sedimentary rocks form from tiny particles called sediments. Sediment accumulates, that means gathers up. You know, like the snow, they say that an accumulation of snow, that's how much total snow we got, and forms layers on Earth's surface. These layers are pressed together and hardened to form rock. Sedimentary rock can have the bands that represent the layers of sediment that press together to form it. In general, sedimentary rock is relatively soft and can break apart easily compared to other types of rock. Also, sedimentary rocks can contain fossils. Fossils are the preserved remains of once living organisms. When organisms die, their remains can be buried in the layers of sediment. Their remains can form impressions in the rock, so it's like the stamp or a picture of it. Okay, the last paragraph. Metamorphic rocks. Metamorphic rocks form when heat or pressure causes buried rock to change or metamorphose, that's a fancy word for change, into new rock. The new rock has a new physical and chemical properties. Sedimentary, igneous, and older metamorphic rocks can become new metamorphic rock. Metamorphic rocks usually have ribbon-like layers or shiny crystals. That means their layers are like, they wave. And then if they came from an igneous rock, it could still have shiny crystals. So let's look at our questions on the back. What is a rock? That's going to come from paragraph 1. So a rock is, that's that first sentence. Finish that sentence. Number 2, why can igneous rocks look very different from each other? Igneous rocks can look different from each other because based on, and that's paragraph 2, and I suggest you look at that second sentence. What features would help you identify a sedimentary rock? So it's coming from paragraph 3. So I just want you to make a list, a couple things. So there's some things that are only true for sedimentary rock. What's it going to have? Number 4, how is metamorphic rock similar to and different from igneous and sedimentary? Okay, so here I want you to divide this into 3. I want you to say how it's similar to igneous, how it's similar to sedimentary, and how it's different than both, okay? So one thing for each. Number 5. Do you think you could tell whether a metamorphic rock was first a sedimentary or igneous rock, which then changed into a metamorphic rock? Justify your answer. So you're going to need kind of all the paragraphs for this one. So you want to say either yes or no. You pick one. Don't write both. I don't want to see that. And that you could or couldn't tell because yes, I can, or I could. No, I couldn't tell because why? So think about like what you did here and what has in common to see what it was first. Okay, now about gluing these all in. This page is a little tricky. Okay, so you want to start with your vocab word. Make sure you get pictures of the backs of all these other ones too. You have to send in multiple pictures of page 3. And then remember you're folding this in half and you're putting glue on the picture part. Okay? Put that up as close as you can to there. And then you're going to take this guy and you're going to fold it so that it fits on the bottom of the page. So that means you're going to probably want to fold it to about above sedimentary rock. And then you want to take that fold and fold it up to where it says types of rocks. Maybe a little bit higher. Just so you know what's under there. You don't want to block it out. And then when you put glue, make sure you only put glue on this top part so you don't cover up your answers. But make sure you take pictures of your answers before you send it in. And then, is it a rock? You're going to take and you're going to fold up to, is it a rock? You don't have a 3 on the back of yours. And then you're going to fold it over like this so you can still see it a little bit. And you're going to put glue on the back there. So that is how you can fit everything on page 3. And I promise that page 4 is not as long.